From the Ticats Audio Network, this is the Ticats This Week with RJ Broadhead and Luke Tasker.
It's great to have you with us on Ticats This Week, especially after a victory. First time we can say that we're doing Ticats This Week after a victory leading into the next game, which is Thursday, 9 o'clock Eastern Time start on the Ticats Audio Network as the Tiger Cats visit the Edmonton Elks. And the Elks have struggled, so this is a great time for the Tiger Cats to maybe be putting things together. I'm RJ Broadhead along with Luke Tasker. Funny what a win does. All of a sudden, things have changed. The Tiger Cats, when you look at the standings, are no longer in the bottom because of the tiebreak. They move ahead of Ottawa, but it's a much different feel than a week ago.
Yeah, it really is. And I remember it as a player, too. It's totally a monkey off your back feeling. You know, just the Everett winning just solves everything. I remember in 2019 when it seemed like we couldn't lose a game. You know, at that year, it was like we were playing. There were some times where we were playing really bad and just winning regardless. And it's like, you know, it just like felt so easy for once. And this year, you know, they had to grind till their fourth game to get the win. But boy, the wins feel the same. You know, whether you've won, you know, 5 in a row or 1 in a row, it just everything feels better and it's easier to go to work the next day after a win at home.
Yeah, we'll delve into that a little bit. I just want to talk about this week in the CFL. All of a sudden, you know, you go 0-3, the Tiger Cats do to start the season, and a lot of question marks. It seemed like a lot of issues, and they get that victory. And now this week, it could be a lot different in the CFL standings because Toronto visits Montreal on Friday. So only one of them is going to get the 2 points, unless it's a tie, but that hasn't happened in a while. So chances are, is it better Toronto goes 4-0? Is it better Montreal loses? And if the Ticats get the victory, it's still early in the season, so we won't get into that minutia of a couple of wins. But it is, all of a sudden, in 2 weeks, the Tiger Cats could be in a much, much better spot in that East Division. It's funny how it works.
Yeah, it's the beauty of the CFL, and I do think we touched on it last week, RJ, and I think one of the differences this year is that we've had so many seasons where the front is heavily loaded with cross-divisional games, you know, and where your East Division opponents are loaded on the back end, and you know, this is a lot of East games for the Ticats early, in Toronto coming up again shortly, so it's gonna shape up quickly here. I don't know. Do you want Toronto to really be 4-0?
Yeah, I know. Pulling away,
yeah, that's hard.
It's tough to catch. But Do you want Montreal and Toronto at 3 wins? I don't know. If the Tiger Cats take care of their business, they're only 1 behind. First place is still attainable. So it'll be fun to see how it plays out. And Ottawa is a tough game, too, on Saturday. Winnipeg is in Ottawa. So that'll be a tough one for the Red Blacks for sure. But anything can happen. When you look at that game last week, coming off a bye week, there's something about the teams coming off a bye week still. Since the Ticats Audio Network has been in existence, the Tiger Cats have never lost coming out of a bye week. We'll keep with that stat. Hopefully it keeps going because there's another bye coming up in August, not too long from now. But you said it, Luke, that these East Division games, so they play in Edmonton on Thursday, then 3 straight against East Division, Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, and they'll see those 3 rivals, and all of a sudden, not even midway through the season, and if they win those East Division games, Ticats could be in a pretty good spot.
Oh yeah, I mean that is a ton of weight on the standings for summer football. You'll have played each of your divisional opponents twice before the half of the season, so really different in that way. You know, I think back to the Ottawa game at Tim Hortons Field, and it certainly was not mistake free. It's never going to be, and it came down, you know, to the very, very end. I actually was impressed with, you know, an Ottawa team that lost Jeremiah Mazzoli after all of the talk and everything about of him being back, and then having to suffer that loss. They stayed in there and battled too. So I don't want to, you know, you can't write off that team as the season progresses. Meaning the Red Blacks. They're gonna be able to find some traction.
Sorry, just to jump in there, Luke. They've got a lot of players injured too. Ottawa, if they hang in to mid-season, they'll be a different team on the field. A lot of key guys, including A couple of former Tiger Cats like Cariel Brooks and Braylon Addison. He should be back at some point. So they'll be interesting if they can hang around.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll see how that that 6-game and 1-game list changes for Ottawa as things continue. But the things that stand out to me though in that Ottawa game, the Ticats defense getting to the quarterback and taking the ball away. Those are things that fans and the team has been waiting to change, and we saw some of that, which is really encouraging, especially those takeaways. It's just huge.
Yeah, they hadn't had an interception going into that game, and that was a bit of a concern. But didn't you get the feel that the defense, I don't know if they looked at the statistics, but they know what the statistics are. And through 3 games, this defense, who's been the heart and soul of the team for so long, was not performing up to their capabilities. And I think they really turned that around, shut Ottawa out in the first and fourth quarters. And you said all those turnovers, 3 interceptions and a fumble recovery, that was huge. And is that more the defense you expect to see going forward?
It is, yeah. And you get Lawrence Woods back this week, as they go to Edmonton. And you hope that he's able to stay healthy. But that secondary has been impressive, certainly was impressive against Ottawa. And then, Simone Lawrence was our Ticats Audio Network player of the game, and rightly so. I mean, the guy just looked awesome out there. And Ted Laurent with that big scoop with the old scoop and try to score. And, this is more so what I was expecting. And that's the way it goes sometimes. I mean, the crazy thing, RJ, is you get to late October as a player, you don't even remember June and July. Like, you just don't. It's just a lifetime ago, and you've changed. As a player, you're different, and your team is better, and so you just don't remember those first 3 games. Unfortunately, they still weigh. They count. But this team. I like the trajectory of the Ticat defense right now.
It's funny you say that. Think to game 1 against Winnipeg. That seems like it was a long time ago.
Right? I can't. Do you remember even being in the booth that day? Like, that was ages ago, and it's like It was like it's the way it goes.
You have to go back and read about the game, but
football years,
yeah. So you're right. It's week by week. Coach O always says it. The next game's the most important game. The balanced attack on offense, we talked about it going into the Ottawa game, that it was really pass heavy. This past week, pretty good. Over 100 yards rushing for the first time this season, rushed 27 times, passed 26 times. So that's almost 50-50 and a more balanced attack. Did you like what you saw from the Tiger Cats on offense?
Yeah, I thought it looked creative too, and you just part of that is just, hey, we've got James Butler. This is we paid for him. He's an important part of this team. Give him a chance, and so I think they did. You can, in the Coach O show earlier this week, that was interesting. His coach's answer was sort of direct. I mean, he's saying, yeah, it wasn't just the flow of the game that suggested run. He made it clear, like, they went in there saying we are going to run, a little bit more, and I think you get better at that too. And yes, you can't struggle for so long and keep doing it. But if you get a little success early on, even within a game, you get better at that, and those guys start winning. You win one-on-one battle up front blocking, and it makes it, it gives you the confidence and the idea to do it again. And so you can actually progress even within a game and get better at their running attack. And I thought James Butler, looked impressive. I mean, they had some really nice large chunk runs that we have not seen prior to that game.
Yeah, we saw some real flashes and bursts from him. Red zone, a bit of a concern. 0 for 5 in the last 2 games for the Tiger Cats. They're getting field goals, but what a difference if they can put it in the end zone. They can get those first half leads that they haven't had yet this season. That's right.
I mean, it would the whole structure of each of these games would have been different if they had. You're not going to have perfect, right? But if you just had, twice at least the productiveness that you have been able to do down there, it has been a problem, and it continues to be. I mean, we had that 9-point lead. It just stubborn leads here, but only by field goals. And the McAllister play from outside the score zone that was the touchdown for the Ticats. That was impressive, but you can't put it in the end zone from 45 yards out with a wide receiver screen every time. You're going to get those in McAllister. And that's, by the way, McAllister, that's a player that I'm enjoying watching, and I'm excited to see his continued involvement. But, a wide receiver screen that goes for long, that reminded me of Speedy B. Early in my career, every now and again he would just take a wide receiver screen and just turn it into an explosive play. But yeah, the red zone work, you've got to focus on that as the receiver and quarterback combinations. And Tommy Condell, I'm sure is trying to be as creative and as productive as he can there as well.
Well, a lot of credit to, of course, Ed Hervey, Drew Alamain, Spencer Zimmerman for finding a guy like Tyreek McAllister. Those playmakers, they're not easy to find, but we saw what he can do, and he hasn't been with the team for very long. One thing stands out to me going into this game against Edmonton as far as the depth chart and Tyreek McAllister. You mentioned it. Lawrence Woods is back, but McAllister is listed as the returner, and we know Lawrence Woods is very good, but McAllister seems to be making such an impression that he's going to get another crack at that role. Are you surprised that it's not Woods?
And there's also the part that we maybe just don't know about the full health for Lawrence Woods, right? And but the return game against Montreal, so 2 games ago for the Ticats, it was maybe one of the poorest return games that we've seen with the Ticats. And it is an asset to have Lawrence back in the defensive secondary, but if you got a tool like McAllister to put a little sprinkle in offensively and in the return game, I've often found that's how most of the great returners in the CFL take a part in the game. They have their personnel package on offense. Maybe they're going to get 5 to 10 reps on offense, and then they're going to handle the return. That was Speedy B's start, right, in Hamilton. Just getting sprinkled in here and there. And then once it is hard, it's a lot of workload to play a full load either in the defensive secondary or in the offensive backfield or split out, and all the returns. It's a heavy, heavy lift. And so makes sense to me, just sort of strategically, logistically, to have a guy like McAllister take that return game. And then hopefully, you have a healthy Lawrence Woods in the defensive secondary.
Yes, absolutely. Edmonton, what is going on with the Elks? They have struggled, especially at home. 19 straight losses at home. They haven't won at home since October of 2019. This is one that just makes you shake your head, this streak. And from a Ticats perspective, you don't want to be the team that breaks that streak. You want to go in there and keep a team that's down. Ticats haven't won on the road, so it's really an interesting setup for this game, but it's a chance for the Tiger Cats to establish themselves. I think they did that a bit last week against Ottawa, a team that's one victory came against Edmonton. So if you base it on that, the Tiger Cats are in a pretty good spot. But how does a player approach a game like this? You know the team's struggling. You know they haven't won. They're 0-5 on the season and 19 straight losses at home. How do you go into this game?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said it doesn't give you a little bit of confidence, honestly. Like you just do feel better, and it's sort of a false answer to say, from my perspective, to say, oh, as a player, no, you take it serious and they're good too. They are, and that's real stuff, but it does give you confidence. You know that this team has a record of losing. They had the Saskatchewan was able to put up a lot of points in the fourth quarter to come back and beat them, and that's sort of, you and I have seen that in Ticat games, with the struggles in the fourth quarter at times during a season when the Ticats have been struggling. That's sort of a key sign of that. And so Edmonton's in that position right now. But, you get desperate, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word, but if you have an Edmonton team that gets desperate, that gets aggressive, that takes bigger risks, sometimes that's what it takes, and that team can start turning it around. The idea of you keep a losing team losing, again, in the Coach O show with Luke Tasker this week, he didn't sort of lean into that mentality. Effectively, you want to make I believe he said it, you want to make a losing team, or you want to make a winning team be a losing team as well. Like, you're going in there to win, and their record does not mean much. But as a player, You can sort of lick your chops a little bit. Like you want to take advantage of the things that you're seeing them do poorly on film, and you're excited for a chance to do that. So maybe there is that little added pressure in this case because of this so-called streak. I don't think I'd have really had that on my mind as a player. I don't think you're really totally worried about that, but it is sort of a media thing that you hear, and at some point there's going to be a team who gets beat by Edmonton at home. So ideally it's not you.
Yeah, exactly. Take care of business. They got their first win against Ottawa, get their first road win against Edmonton, and then they're right back in the race for top spot in the East Division. So they have to look after themselves, play well, build on that game against the Red Blacks. Matt Schultz will be the starting quarterback again for the Tiger Cats. He went 19 for 26, 233 yards, threw a touchdown, an interception. Didn't throw deep very often, but the 2 and outs were minuscule, just 3 of them in the whole game. What did you think of Matt's performance?
Yep. Improving for sure. I mean, he is trustworthy. Like I feel good about Matt Schultz as a guy who can manage the game and who can hang in there for 4 quarters and can put together drives, early, middle, and late. The deep ball is interesting. I mean, and I guess if they threw the ball almost half of the times that they had the previous week. So that's just half the amount of plays to throw the ball in different directions, right? But early in the season, in the games that they were not able to win, they were at times, it almost looked like they said, okay, if nothing else, we're going to give guys a shot. At times they were doing that. And where they were moving the ball down the field against Montreal, you saw Matt Schultz make some really tough completions at that sort of mid-level, that 15 to 25 yard range. You can think back to some really tight throws in there to Duke Williams, and of course there was interceptions in that game. But they answered the one call of increasing the running attempts, right? And that was sort of a must do. That was sort of something that really looked lacking from those previous offensive efforts. And now to get back to some of that deep ball, maybe that's a direction we're going to see them take in Edmonton.
Yeah, we had seen some creativity, at least in that Ottawa game, coming out of the bye week. So maybe they got some more tricks up their sleeve. Bit of a concern that Tim White was quiet. Duke Williams was quieter than he had been in the previous couple of games. Is that a case of Ottawa focusing on shutting down those two, or was it the Tiger Cats not using them as much?
It could have been. It could have been. I think that probably not. As far as the Ticats not focusing there, I would say they have no reason to not be going back to Duke the way that he's been making catches down the field. And we've seen the ups and the downs with Tim White a little bit, just as far as his involvement in production. And hopefully we're gonna. Hope in Edmonton, you'd love to see that downfield attack, and that my first idea there goes to Tim White for sure, just with his speed and the ability to make plays deep like we've seen. Of course, I say that, and my first impression of Duke Williams was, of course, 2018 when it was just deep ball after deep ball after deep ball. So I wonder if we'll see a little bit of that as well.
Well, I know Ticats fans hope, and we'll see what happens on Thursday, 9:00. Kickoff. A little bit later, but it's the latest game of the season for the Tiger Cats, so they don't have anything later than the 9 p.m. Eastern pregame shows at 8:00 Eastern with Bubba and Andy. Luke, what are you expecting to see as a performance from the Tiger Cats in Edmonton, a team that's been struggling? Do you think they're going to go to 2-3?
I do. I think they got a great opportunity here. I found that you have a team like Edmonton struggling to get their win. It's really hard, and when you're in that position, to come back on a team to get, if you're down early, to make that change. That's sort of where that mentality comes from, keeping a losing team losing, to me, because it really is. There's an energy challenge and a morale challenge to come back from behind when you're already been losing game after game. And so, we'll see how this first quarter shapes up for the Ticats and if they can get a lead early.
Well, Luke, looking forward to seeing you at the game, and we'll see what happens. It's another big one for the Tiger Cats.
Yeah, you bet. Looking forward to it.
Be sure to listen on the Ticats Audio Network. It's the Tiger Cats visiting the Edmonton Elks. Pre-game show, 8:00. Luke and I will have the call at 9:00 Eastern Time. Thanks for listening to Ticats This Week.
It's been another busy week for your Hamilton Tiger Cats. Luke Tasker and RJ Broadhead have covered it all, and now we would like to hear from you. Email us anytime at gameday@ticats.ca. Subscribe to the Ticats Audio Network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.